Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show, the podcast that engages and informs you for success in today's marketplace. It's the show that will make you a better marketer with trends, tactics, and inspiration from experts and industry leaders. If you're wanting to impact your personal success and position your bank as the best choice in your market, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into today's show with your hosts, Chris and Dan.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Bank Marketing Show. Welcome, Chris.
Good to see you, Dan.
Yeah, likewise. And we have two really exciting guests that Chris and I both know really well. Dave and Marty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited about having you guys today. What we've got in store for our listeners is a really cool story for this industry. I think that's what I'm excited about. So, echo that. We're really glad to have you guys with us today. So, just to set the stage a little bit. So, Marty Heger is the president and CEO of Dearborn Federal Savings Bank, Dearborn, Michigan. Marty, and you've been at it a little while.
Little while.
Yeah.
37. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
20 Dearborn Federal Savings.
Nice. Yeah. 37 years in the trenches and on top of the trenches, all of the above. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Different areas.
Yeah. That's great. And then Dave Peters, thank you for being with us as well. Dave is CFO of Dearborn Federal Savings Bank as well. And Dave, you've been with the bank for about 3 years, and then CPA before that.
Still a CPA, but haven't hung up the jersey in the rafters just yet. But yeah, that's did many a busy season prior to making the switch from tax to banking.
There you go.
You can take the CPA out of the accounting firm, but something something like that.
That's right.
Well, and today we're like I said before, Chris and I have been working with you guys for we were just talking about almost a year through a brand refresh project and marketing strategy project, and today we're gonna kind of walk through that process and what led up to it, and talk to you guys from your perspective on why and how and and what the output has been. Because I think it's a topic we've touched on this podcast a little bit, right? Just in the benefits and the strategy behind it a little bit, but to actually have real live bankers on here talking through the day-to-day stuff, talking through how you thought about approaching it, I think will be exciting for a lot of listeners. Whether you're going through a full renaming, right? And we're going to talk about today is just the brand, not the name, but the logo and the creative stuff and the marketing strategy that goes with it. But if you're in that spot, or if you're not, or if you're trying to retool even some small pieces of it, I think we'll touch on a lot of the whole marketing process today.
Yeah, and Dan, I know as you and I work with community financial institutions all over the country, we hear so many of the same concerns, fears, pain points. We want to appeal to younger audiences, where we're competing with the regionals, nationals, fintechs, et cetera. I mean, there's a lot of these same pain points in this whole industry vertical. And so the introspection and, what it takes to really step out and Marty and Dave do what you guys have led the bank through over the last year is just awesome and amazing. And I know that there are a lot of our listeners that are considering it. So, this sharing of experiences is really going to be helpful. So we appreciate you guys being with us to do that today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I know that so in thinking about us having this episode today and the discussion, it was really helpful that you guys kind of broke your story into four parts of thinking, 4 steps. As we were visiting before the episode started, it's like the first step in change is surrender, right?
Right.
Well, you guys maybe give us some of that overview and background and kind of what the first of these steps, which is identifying and I guess admitting there's a problem. I loved how you put that. So you guys tell us about that a little bit, where you were back a year ago or even preceding that.
A year ago, our institution was kind of in stasis, to be honest. I mean, we had been founded in 1936 as a mutual savings bank. We do not have shareholders. And what's interesting is that we're one of only 3 mutuals left in the state of Michigan. So our form of corporate governance is different and it presents some different challenges. Not having shareholders is a very unique position to be in. We were profitable, very successful. We were kind of the go-to bank here in the Dearborn Heights, Dearborn area. But new entrants came into this marketplace. And we've done some research. Over 500 institutions of some sort or of another have made loans in Wayne County, the county in which our bank is located. So we have a lot of competition, but we were very successful for many years. And we didn't really need to change. So our brand and our logo really didn't get a lot of attention. It was neglect, really. And we didn't plan for the changing demographics and all of the changing things that happen as a result of deregulation. The bank was extremely successful when there was a high degree of regulation. You couldn't help but make money. But after deregulation and increased competition, we really started to see that, hey, our loan volume is declining, our deposits are steady, but we realize that we've got a very older customer base with their deposits, extremely loyal, but definitely aging. And we need to hold on to those core deposits and figure out how to attract new core deposits with the younger people in this area. So that's been a big challenge. So that's where we were. We didn't have a very good website. In fact, didn't have a website for a long time. And then when we finally got one, it just wasn't very effective. It was information only, and it didn't have a good look, good feel. It wasn't a place that you wanted to be at. So really, that was a main focus too, is how do we, again, appeal to younger people, and we did not have the tools with which to do. And I think it was so important for us to figure out where we were, take the time to figure out where we were at as a bank, where we were at with our brand, and figure out how can we change to tackle these problems that we have assessed. And so really figuring out new ways, we talked a lot about, we wanted to get into social media. We had no social media presence. And we frankly didn't know what we were doing. We needed help. And, that's really why it was so beneficial to seek out you, Dan, and you, Chris, for that, really to give us that framework where we start at the beginning and trying to find out what's the why? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Who do we want to serve? Who are our customers? Who are our future customers? And it was so helpful that, Dan, when you came in a year ago, and we really did a great brainstorming session and had Post-it notes all over the boardroom, great ideas. It was so beneficial to really start from square one, figure out where we need to be.
Yeah, that's a conversation a lot of banks try to have, and it usually comes down, and even I remember back to the workshop, right? It's even like, well, we're a bank, we serve everybody, and the conversation that we had in that workshop is like, yes, but who do you serve uniquely well, right? What is it about that like non-shareholder structure that you have? What is it about, where your bank is that lets you do something better than anyone else for a particular set of customers? If you try to appeal to everybody, that's where you end up, being just the trusted local bank, right? And you want to be trusted and local. We say, I think every episode of this show, this comes up. You want to be that, but if you try to do that for everybody, you kind of just do it in a mediocre way for everybody. But if you can focus on a few core pillars, you can be the place for a few core pillars, and you'll likely end up in a better place than if you just try to do it halfway for everybody. I think one thing, one thing we talked a lot about too that you didn't mention there was you're in a suburb of Detroit, right? It's this massive market, which is an asset, right? It's also a challenge because there is so much competition and you've got some big players. But part of one of the things we talked about early on was like, well, are you going wider, right? Or you're like one of the few remaining, community banks in probably 100 miles or more, right? Ish. But like, do you have an opportunity to be that bank for, your community or is it, how is it demographic groups? Is it, what is that? So I think that was a lot of the early work is to try to understand that and help your team wrap your heads around how to think about it.
And I think in 2022, if we want to go back 2 years and kind of all of a sudden what happened. So in where I sit in the financial world, all of a sudden, as we all know, rates went up, and they didn't just go up a little, they went up a lot. And that all of a sudden, for the first time, made deposits really scarce. And, we're still kind of feeling those effects. Well, you also couple that with everybody's got a 3%, 2% loan. Now we have 6 to 7 to 8% loan world. There's not so you had both sides of the balance sheet really shrink all of a sudden. Our origination pipeline had really shrunk, and deposits, rightly so, were seeing what other alternatives were out there. And so it was a really challenging time. And so I remember back in 2022 thinking, what tool do I have in my tool belt where I can combat this? What tool does the bank have? Do we even have this tool? This last month, I've been working. I can think about this. I've been working on a shed, kind of, 2x4s and nails kind of thing. And recently I was on top of the roof, and all of a sudden I thought, man, I looked back in my tool belt and I didn't have my hammer, and it was on the ground. And I kind of felt that same way in 2022. Like, here we are on the roof, like thinking we have a tool in our tool belt, and no, we don't. We didn't really have the ability to mass market at the flip of a switch. It was word of mouth, which is so successful, but that takes a lot of time. And all of a sudden, when you've got shrinking going on, you need something to happen, and you need it to happen fast. And so that's where, we kind of recognized something's got to give. And there was the admission of a problem there.
Yeah, and it's not just an either or thing, right? You don't have to. It's not either word of mouth or paid advertising, for example, right? Everything works together, right? Your strong word of mouth foundation can be even stronger if there's a brand that customers are excited about and willing to refer it,
and right? It's reinforced. Yeah,
exactly. It's
multi-platform reinforced, right?
Yeah.
Well, and as you guys did this, so you got to this point. It's the introspection. You admit there's a problem. So then the next phase, as you kind of spec this out in the steps, is to search for help. Is to take a time out to think and plan. A brand refresh, or I guess you guys were considering at that point, what do we do? Right? You're asking yourself that question. You've said, we've got a problem or a set of problems. Now time to think out and plan. So kind of paint that picture for us of what that next phase, began to look like.
The marketing assistance space, as you guys are aware, is very vast and very broad. So we knew there was a lot of different criteria that were really near and dear to our hearts. They had to be small and with the ability to hold our hand, and recognize that we had little to no infrastructure of any sort really in the marketing area. They weren't going to be pushy or make us feel embarrassed that we didn't have that, which I think was key, because there's a level of you have to swallow your pride as we ventured out. And really the most important was they had to understand the community banking space. And so it was as simple as going on Financial Brand and looking up who's out there that can help. started with a list of 10, navigated down to 5, went through, got different quotes, and then Dan, we found you. You were able to rope in Chris, and kind of the rest is history from that point of speak. But yeah, it was a pretty tough time doing that vetting process.
Yeah, we I was gonna say too. We started. I think there's like the agency vetting, but like I think too to add to that, like I know when we started working together, it wasn't like you came out and said, "Yeah, we need to rebrand. Let's do a rebrand project." It was even more vague than that. So like in your vetting process, it was. I imagine it was more like, well, which of these companies is going to help us figure out what we need? Because I remember our first conversations were, we don't even know what we need. We know it's something around marketing, but like we don't know how to approach it. We don't know how to start.
And that led to that foundational step of developing a marketing plan, right? With a big M. It wasn't just, what are the ads going to look like at all? It was foundational. And I'm speaking slightly out of turn because this was you guys largely working with Dan on this, but it was even evaluating who you are, who your markets are, what are your core business practices, which ones are revenue positive, which ones are a waste of time. Right? So Dan, you can speak to all of those core questions around the development of, this isn't like next year's marketing plan, like where are we going to run ads? This is a marketing plan of, who are we?
Well, and we had that conversation at the beginning of like, if you go look for an agency that specializes in paid ads, they're going to recommend paid ads. But the way we started was to say, you probably should run paid ads, but is your, Marty, like you mentioned, like is your technical foundation there? Are the ads going to do anything? Or are you driving people to an outdated website that doesn't work on a mobile device, right? And then, even if your website's new, does the brand speak to the customers you want to reach? So, that's really where we started, was like, who can you reach uniquely the best, right? Who can you help uniquely the best in your area? And then we get to like, well, what kind of marketing reaches them? What kind of brand speaks to them? And that was really the first step. And I know a lot of banks, I don't want to make it all too salesy, but a lot of banks go to, hey, we need marketing. Let's find a Google Ads agency. And I know this is another thing that comes up in the show a lot, is just like, that's not going to work.
Right. And you told us that from day one, that we could get a budget for Google Ads and just spend the whole thing and really not recognize any real beneficial results.
Yeah.
Throw a lot of money away and not really for any good purpose, just, thinking we're doing the right thing. But so, yeah, backing up and really kind of figuring out who we are, why we're here, who do we want to serve, where are we headed? Those were great questions that really helped us to focus.
And it was a pretty difficult conversation going back and thinking through it all. It was the whole management team really kind of opening up the books and going, like you all were saying, like, what's our core? Like, what if you strip away everything else, and like what is the bank truly? Because a lot of times, and maybe it's just typical in the industry, but you just kind of do bank things, and the next year goes by, the next audit, the next exam, and you just do the same old, and that's fine. And it kind of roping in the problem there is, profit is a two-edged sword. Profit obviously is paramount in the industry. It builds capital. It can reward shareholders, and it can drive the bank forward. But also, in a low-rate environment, profit was there to just collect, and just banks we were in a good position, and there wasn't that really soul searching that kind of maybe should have been, but again, a lot of we just never heard that happen.
Right. And, I do want to mention, Dave, having been here for 3 years, he came in with a fresh set of eyes it was so beneficial to be able to, really kind of, he almost was looking in from the outside and taking his experiences as a consumer, as someone who is in the age group that we want to target. He brought so much to the table for that, and was really able to help us kind of narrow down the message that we wanted to send.
That's a great point. It's easy for Marty, someone like you that's been at the bank 22 years and been in the industry 37 years and all that. Easy. Let me flip that around. It's probably pretty difficult to take blinders off, unintentional blinders or whatever. But Dave, kind of like you just said, you just do banking. You just come in every day and you just do banking and you treat people right and you do it well and all that. But yeah, eventually you've had blinders on for a while and just haven't realized it, and then you look in the lobby and you got shag carpet from 1981 and you're going, oh gosh, dude, we've got to modernize. We've got to do all things right. So I think that's a great point, is that you had somebody to do it with, which is probably an important point to our listeners, is this probably is not a process that just the CEO needs to do and be the participant in at all. Done well. And Dan, you and I have seen this with other banks as well. Is bringing in a core team to lead this process and to work with whatever outside help that you've got is. So that's a great point, Marty. And so then you guys had this marketing plan, and then the next. And I know part of that was, Dave, you said a second ago, sometimes those hard conversations. So here's what we hear as marketing people. Just do me a new logo. Well, okay, yeah. That's good. There's a lot that goes, or just do us a tag. Oh, and when you just do the logo, just do the tagline. Okay, well, so established in 1936, which you guys were, that's a statement of authority. You aren't new kids on the block. If I do a loan with you or bring my deposit accounts to you, you're going to know what you're doing. So, while those are important, at the same time, that's not a motivator for these younger audiences or for other people, or to, spread your geography a little bit past Dearborn Heights or whatever it is. That's not a big motivator to bring people in. So you needed to develop a whole new brand message and a guide and a voice as to what this is. And Dan, I don't know how many times in 3.5 years of doing this podcast that we've talked about that messaging and voice and how important that is. Not trusted and local, but relatable messaging and what that is. So yeah, so Dave, we stepped on into that with you guys and talk a little bit about that process and kind of what that was, how that felt.
Yeah, well, it was downright terrifying, to be perfectly frank, the whole time. And we might have had a brave face on the weekly calls, but there were a lot of times that, it's the fear of the unknown. And I know we have core memories, but I just know there's some core times where I knew that this was going to work. I knew it was a lot of work, but I knew it was going to work. And when I first started, I had already seen various individuals want to modernize. So I already saw that the desire was there, completely fragmented, but the desire was there in little bits. The other one is the individual who was in charge of marketing for decades here, who was kind of it was a bootstrap effort, joked to me and just said, yeah, I'm ready for change. And it's a super small thing, but in such an industry that is pretty set, just that kind of that green light of passing on the reins of, yeah, let's put the helmet on and do this thing. That one was, it was a renewed energy, ready to go. Let's go. Another one was when we passed the marketing plan out to the board for the first time and just watching them read through it meticulously, page by page, and seeing on paper what they knew for decades, probably, because it was the first time in recent memory that we did those really hard, gut-wrenching, hard conversation of who we are, and just watching their faces light up and just being like, absolutely, we're going to approve this marketing plan was awesome. And then the last one, when I saw the logo, it kind of just spoke I don't know if it spoke to you, but it just was like, we kind of all around the room just went, yep, that's it. Sounds good. Because it just encapsulated everything, the 3 months worth of work leading up to that, the countless hours we put in. It would be kind of cool if we counted the man hours. Yeah, it actually would be pretty terrifying if we counted the man hours. But yeah, so I think those were a lot of the times that we gave me a little bit of lifted spirits.
Well, I remember the discussions around the board approval, and that's always a big thing, right? And I think it's important to not kind of gloss over, right? That you were always thinking about how to sell this to the board, right? How that you knew that day was coming, and I think that drove all of us to make sure the plan was thought through, and we had a sense of, hey, it's not just we need a new logo because we've had this one for so many odd years. It's here's who we're reaching with it. Here's why we're doing this, right? And maybe you don't like the color purple, but like our target audience does, and that's why it's in there. And starting to break some of those things down so that when it gets to the board, they feel what you feel, right? Because they're not sitting in the weekly meetings and putting in all those man hours the same way that you are and that you're, that we were.
And that new logo, I guess it's kind of like, those old movies where there's the major plastic surgery and then you take the mask off and all of a sudden you're like, oh, and it's, and I remember that moment, as well, because what had to precede it were the discussions about what's your change tolerance. I mean, are we going to take the old logo and just kind of vary the color a little bit? And then we all move on down the road. And is that going to accomplish what this entire process is really trying to accomplish? And obviously the answer was no. We need to, you guys had to be open-minded, about this. And we went through a meticulous process to really try to derive from all that. Marty and Dave, what you were both just saying, the who are we, all of those things. And then what is that visually? And what is it going to say with us going into the future? And who is it going to speak to? And, all of those things that happened. So what we had to have from you guys at that point was that open-mindedness, that willingness to go, okay, we're going to step out there, and then seeing the cool thing happen, Dave, that you just described is you saw that new logo because you looked at several options. But what you didn't know was that all the work that had gone into that is we knew which one we thought you needed to go to. We just weren't going to say it. Dan, you remember, in fact, you and I looked at it before, we got back with these guys, and we were like, we weren't going to say, we were like, we really hope they go this direction because this is who they are. This is going to speak to, and all of those things. And so we presented them all and you picked it, and that was it, and you knew it. So that's pretty cool.
I would say though, Chris, it was great with your team being able to come up with a lot of different looks for us to be able to choose through. That's really helpful. And also, looking at, we understand what the board's tolerance for changes too. So, we wanted a departure, but we didn't want to go too far. We had talked with you about, do we want to change our name? And we just felt that was something that the board would not approve. And maybe wasn't really even necessary at this point. It might be something down the road that we look at, but not right now. But yeah.
Well, and part of that too was, part of that decision, right, was if we figured out the kind of the target audience you wanted to reach first and said, hey, like because your competitors are big, there's an opportunity to sort of double down on Dearborn, double down on your community, and, come at the rebranding, making Dearborn the asset, right? Because so many other competitors are moving away from Dearborn or moving to larger targets, and they don't want Dearborn in the name. And, but if use your, one of the things we talk a lot about on the show is like, use what you have as your asset. And for you guys, it's your location, you've got, 5 branches within a couple miles of each other. And you're really invested in the community already. So why not, showcase that in the name? Yeah. And if that changes, you can change the name later, but like, let's highlight that. Let's make it so, if you're listening and you go out and look at the logo, right? It was designed to say Dearborn front and center and be different than everybody else up the street.
So then in this process, then you reach the third of these 4 steps too. And Dave, you labeled it well as track inventory. And so in that, now all this groundwork, right, has been done that we've described thus far in the episode, and now track inventory. So then what? You guys kind of tell us where you felt like the moving forward was at that point.
Yeah. It was a lot of work. We knew right away we didn't have the guns to do an overnight snap your fingers, everything goes from one logo to the next. I know we a local big bank just went through that, and it was pretty cool to watch. But we knew our capabilities. So as a team, we recognized, okay, well, how's the rollout gonna be? And taking the second alternative approach, which is not, hey, there's going to be this magic, cut the ribbon, and you have a new debit card magically in your pocket, and everything's great. Which was, no, we've been around for almost a century, and just like the pizza shop down the road, just like the tire shop, people change logos. It's part of the business cycle. And we really wanted to emphasize that to our customers, to our employees, to everybody. This isn't a buyout. There's no acquisitions going on. We're not changing who we are. In fact, like we just said, we're doubling down on who we are. But what comes with that is a brand change. So the message became one of a celebration of this brand rather than this scary thing that's happening. Like, all of our communication to our customers was happy about this. This is a momentous, exciting thing. We actually went back in the records. Our chairman pulled a lot of the old logos we had. And it was truth be told, there was one logo from the very beginning that we didn't really know about. And we might touch base on this later, but it was kind of this depositor who's been with us, I think, for decades, brought this barrel he got as a kid with the oldest logo that we really didn't even know existed. But what we did is we compiled all of that, made a lot of material for our customers to basically say, these are the images you recognize. This is what's coming. So yeah, that's just the approach we took.
Well, Marty, I want to piggyback on Dave's tossing the ball over to you here, because I remember your response when we started talking about that approach of the whole point of all of this is getting better for you. That mentality of it, to what that's going to be to your customers. But also, I remember the meeting, Marty, I think that you relayed it with how this was being accepted and what the energy level was, or culture level, corporate culture level, if you will, internally. I remember you commenting that to us. Tell me a little bit more about that.
We really wanted to make sure that everybody was on board with this, because if everybody wasn't on board, we knew this was not going to be successful. We made a real effort to get to our frontline people, and we went around to each branch individually as a team, and we announced what was happening. Made sure that we emphasized the logo, that the brand refresh was, again, what Dave said. We weren't being taken over. We weren't buying anybody, but it was certainly time to do that. And amongst our frontline staff, I mean, it was just overwhelming. They were really happy about the logo. It was modern. It was welcoming. The leaves, the symbol of the leaves and what they represent in terms of growth, in terms of new beginnings, really important stuff. So one of the things that we did was we opened our apparel store to make sure that all of our folks had some apparel with the new logo, courtesy of the bank. So everybody loved it. They went and they were allotted a certain amount of money to go and buy shirts, and it's almost become, we don't have a uniform, but it's kind of become a uniform, and everybody is proud to wear it. And it's really just been great to see not only the back office, but our front line really embrace it and be able to explain to our customers that we're going forward, that we're not forgetting about who we are or how we got here, but we do want to move forward. We want to grow, and we want to be a better bank for you. We think that when you bank with us, one of the things that we kind of thought about was how you can get more home with us, because our rates are typically lower because we're a mutual. So there's a lot of advantages. We don't sell your loans. We keep everything portfolio. So great, a lot of different advantages to banking with us that we want to make sure that people know about.
And that logo, the new logo, and getting the team buy-in, helps you tell that story better.
Yes.
It opens the conversation versus if you just came out with that message of, our rates are lower and, the look and feel didn't change. It would be different. And I think one of the most, not that we didn't expect it, but one of the most kind of, is maybe heartwarming is a better word than surprised or unexpected, but the way that the team reacted to it, right? It was just, I remember a few conversations with you guys around just the excitement everybody had. And so it's not just it's not just a logo for the sake of the customers, but now you've got an excited team that's, kind of invigorated to show it off.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Dave, you alluded to it a moment ago, too. Kind of the moving forward in this process then became the Matrix. Not like Matrix, the movie, although it kind of became that that expansive, didn't it? So there was this matrix of all the things that were going to have to be changed, right? And I get that. Was that much larger than you thought? More tentacles to it? And kind of what was that matrix and the move forward?
Yeah, so when I came to the bank and in my seat, there were a lot of things that people had already wanted to change anyway. Signage was getting old. The bulbs were being burnt out. Our website needed a refresh, a userability kind of update, and some other things along the way that they were going to be expenditures anyway. So we knew that. So what we did is we sat down and said, all right, we're making a matrix here, and we're going to focus on, we know what we need to focus on, what we shouldn't focus on, and what are going to be in the future day 2 items. So we said, okay, we got effort and importance. What's high effort? What's high importance? So I remember we got Jersey Mike's or something, and we just sat down and we were like, we're going to crank through 4 items that we had that were high importance and high effort, which was outdoor signage, which was the web, which was this brochure that we wanted to go out to everybody, and then figuring out, obviously we can't do this without a party. So what that party was going to look like in July and with the date we picked. And then from there, it was, as you can probably surmise, we had, high effort, low importance, high importance, low effort, and then low effort, low importance is kind of where it was. And so really, it was helpful to understand what's falling into these different buckets, especially low effort, high importance stuff. That's your low hanging fruit. Email signatures. We had in-branch TVs, just making sure that advertisements were up and running. Signage on the building. Yes, signage on the building, like the minutia signage. And then one thing that we wanted to be really cautious of, just given our smaller capacities, was the high effort, low importance items. And this is where it was really tough at first to not get bogged down in the weeds. You had a ton of brochures out in the lobby that needed to get refreshed. Debit cards, check stock, all of those items that you can't snap your fingers and you get charged an arm and a leg for. So we made the decision, well, those are high effort, low importance in reality. And because we took the frame of mind to treat this as a rebranding for better, and it's part of the business cycle. Our customers were okay that they got maybe a receipt and had the whole old logo on it. It wasn't earth shattering. And guess what? When the new spool goes in, it'll have the new logo or the new email or whatever. And it just will take some time, but we're bettering for you. That's right. And so that was that matrix that became really helpful as a team to figure out what was tracking inventory, right?
Including about 20,000 different signs, right?
Absolutely.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the parking lot signs. It's like, oh my gosh, if we walk around in the parking lot, there's all the direction signs leaving the parking lot and entering and all the, it just got, that's an example of many, Dan, of stuff that was just, wow, it's so much more than we thought, but it all needs to be done. And then there were the big ones, like you didn't have a social media presence established, and doing all of that. So that was one of the things that our teams were working with you guys on is the preparation of that and all the content preparation and the launch. And so it was building toward this launch date that even though it wasn't a total rebrand, it was a refresh of the brand. It was important to you guys to involve your team, but man, lots of customers and build up and all of this and a build up to it on social channels and all of these things. And you did it tied in with, things going on in the community physically around your headquarters branch and all of that and building into it. It was an enormous effort, was it not?
I just think about building that quadrant and thinking about for other institutions listening, everybody's quadrant is going to look different. And what you already have as your existing infrastructure could be entirely different than what we had. We were building social media from the ground up. So for someone, that could be low effort, high importance could be social media. But for us, it wasn't. It was a lot of work because policies had to get written, responsibilities had to get doled out. Same for Google reviews. It's something that it sounds really simple. Just get Google reviews. But someone's got to manage the process. Who's going to track it? Who's going to get the answer? The qualified people that need to respond timely. And just so you're not telling your tellers, hey, ask for Google reviews. And that's not really fair to them. And you want to manage that process. But a lot of that just stuff takes infrastructure and building that. And that's going to be very different from every institution.
Well, so now we've got, we kind of got through the marketing strategy. We got through deciding to do the rebrand. We got through the, the other stuff like launching social media that kind of comes along with that. We got through the board approval. We got through the inventory. Talk a little about like the launch itself, the launch day and the reception that you got from customers, from, everybody that saw it.
I think it was an overwhelming success. We made sure that our customers all knew about it. And we have a field next to our parking lot that we use for events. And, had a launch party. We had tents, we had vendors there, for food and a disc jockey. And we invited everybody. And the response was terrific. We were so pleased to see people from our community come and do the brand refresh with us. If they had questions, it was a great opportunity for us to reassure them, again, that we aren't going anywhere. We're just becoming a better bank for you. And part of that is investing in our brand and our logo, modernizing it, making it fresh so that, people know that we're here and we want to do business with them.
Absolutely. And, your board came out, all of those. Guys, one of the first things you said in this episode conversation was talking about word of mouth was always key and core. So it's really interesting that the whole process came all the way to this big launch event, Dan, that you were talking about. And it, went right into so many of these community members and your team and your board and customers and all of these people. You guys had it was the fire chiefs and the police chiefs were out there and all of these, and it was just a really cool happening. And it was great watching your faces as well. And I can tell you that from this side of it as well. And watching this amazing success, Marty, that you mentioned, and it was tremendous. It was the culmination of a lot of work, and then it was the into action. Right, that was kind of your fourth big piece here of the taking action. So now it's all done, and the moving forward of it. And it took a lot of stuff.
It really did, Chris. One thing that we always had to, everything takes time. And so we knew July 19th was our launch date, so to speak, or the party, whatever you want to call it. And from there, everything had to really get worked backwards. So that was one of the really key takeaways is like, okay, that's in the future. Let's rewind the tape when we're taking action. How are we going to take action, and how much really lead time do we have so the dominoes can fall one after the next? So we have this amazing success, 300 people out there, great burgers and dogs. So that was something that was really tough to do, but I'm glad we really took the time to do. And then one thing that I wish, thinking back, what would I wish we had done again if we do it? And that's really to reset often to focus on the wins. This process is so intense because of all the questions and answers and everything like that. That really makes sure you schedule time to focus on, hey, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, even though it might feel like it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And that's, we had that one time, and I really wish we had. I mean, we were all encouraging, but I would, I wish we had really blocked off time, just be like, hey, this is really good, guys, and keep our heads up.
Yeah. It's a long process, but it's certainly worth it. And our customers are very receptive to it. And it's a very positive thing for us.
Well, so that's the big question is all those weekly meetings with your team and ours and check-ins and spreadsheets and all the work that went into it and all that. So, Marty, you just alluded to it there is it worth it? And you look back a calendar year, and Dave, as you said, even a couple of years back when the mindset, thinking process started, and here you are and looking at your bank going forward. What does that mean? How is it worth it? Is it serving better? Is it what all is it, do you think?
I think it's exactly that. It's serving the community better. What I would like us to be is the first call from the customer. I don't think we always are, and again, it's just people didn't know we were here. It got to a point where we weren't doing advertising and marketing to let people know, hey, we're here and we want to work with you. We want to help you out. We want you to buy a home. We want to help your business grow. So I think that getting that message out was really important. And I think we've done a good job of it. And I think that, where we go from here is just, expanding that. I'm so excited really about the social media presence because, I'm a little older. I don't know as much about it, but I'm really intrigued by the possibilities. And you guys really took it from scratch when we had no social media presence. And I'm really pleased to see we have you now, working our social media for us and the posts, that we're doing on a timely basis, and they're informational. And, sometimes they're just fun to read or, it's really great. And we never had that before. And I really think in the long term, it's going to really pay dividends for us.
Yeah, something else is like the fire doesn't stop with the brand. It then creeps its way into other inefficiencies. That's one thing that we found is that everybody starts that same energy that is like looking at their current process or helping a customer and going, oh, wait, maybe it's that same question that's been asked 5 times, but it's like, no, let's get to that root cause, and maybe it's something on the website that's a little unclear. Let's start to change this stuff and create those micro efficiencies. Yes, it takes time, but it's just like kind of it feels a little bit contagious, and that's been something that's been really cool to watch. And then it also is pretty eye-opening about the different vendors as well as you go through it, about you're making a change, and how resilient is that vendor to help you with change. And you're changing the logo. Are they going to nickel and dime you on the change and things like that? And you can kind of go, you're doing a really big product. You're really getting involved with them, and you might start. Maybe it goes back to the inefficiencies or what. Maybe start thinking about like what's the long-term play with a lot of these vendors and stuff like that. So to me, the questions don't end, and you kind of wake up the sleeping dragon, and it's full steam ahead.
So I guess the opposite of that is to sit still and remain stale and not do that, not do the things to move you where you are now. And it's cool to hear you say that, Dave, is, the other parts that it has awoken and moving forward and listening to you guys now and continuing to work with you. It all sounds so forward facing now. So I think that's a great part of what's come out of this. Well, I know that Dan and I are so excited for this for you guys, and have been, Dan, definitely speaking for both of us, but have been so honored to partner with you through this whole process, and now part of that awakening and where it's going in the future. So very cool.
Very exciting. Very exciting time for the bank.
Well, Dan, I know we can't let him out of here.
Yeah. He's still have a few more questions.
That's right.
But I mean, we do this with all the guests, but we're gonna kind of throw some lightning round questions at both of you. So let's do this. Let's do this lightning style. The first question we asked is personal best, business best. Dave, I know you mentioned a shed earlier. We just talked through probably your business best, but tell us what you'd say after all this time working together.
Yeah, I think definitely those. I know for me, joking aside, ran a half marathon on Sunday. So that was pretty big.
Congrats.
Dusted off the shoes a little bit, trained. So, but realistically, I mean, really what's core in my life is, faith, family, and friends. And I just look also at big accomplishment, being married 5.5 years and counting. So I know many out there are married way longer, but every day is, I feel, something I work really hard at, and to just be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Marty?
Okay. I think for a business best, I'm really proud of the fact that it ties in with what we're doing. But I won the Community Spirit Award from the Federal Home Loan Bank. And on behalf of the bank, I won it because of our efforts to provide housing in Detroit, in the city of Detroit, for low and moderate income housing. And we had a project that we ran into a lot of blockades, really, over about a 3-year period. But we worked through them all, and we were able to get a lot of tax credits to get this off the ground, and it provided affordable housing. So I'm really proud of that from a business standpoint. From a personal, I would have to really echo with Dave. I've been married for 33 years.
Better get that answer right. Come on.
Think about it for just a second. But so that longevity of our marriage and being partners is something I treasure a lot.
How about a favorite book or other resource?
It's going to sound cliche, but I have a 45-minute commute, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's kind of how I kind of found you guys too. Was your podcast. And I feel like every day there's another one out there that's coming up. Some great, some that are maybe one listen, but there's a treasure trove of people out there just giving great advice, sometimes with a grain of salt, but especially in the community bank space, a lot of these big vendors have these podcasts, and it's just, a great way to learn. And it gets your appetite wet, your feet wet. So, thank you. It's a bi-weekly listen on my Monday or Tuesday morning, my drive in, either to or from. But then, yeah, there's a whole host of other ones that I listen to.
But of course, you got to put the bank marketing show on top of the list. I mean, of course. Yep. What about you, Marty?
I kind of consider myself a news junkie. So I'm constantly listening to satellite radio, all of the different stations, as well as all of the local news here. And I think it's really important to get a diverse set of opinions and to really listen to a lot of different sources as opposed to one. So, I try to pay attention to the financial news and also just what's happening with the country. Obviously, the election has huge ramifications. Definitely within the banking industry, there's the potential for a lot of change with the election. So we're keeping on top of that. So I really kind of like to keep up on current events and where we're at.
How about an impactful piece of advice? What's the most impactful piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Advice. It's kind of a saying that I think there's a lot of truth to it, and it's your front line is your bottom line. And the longer I'm in banking, boy, the more I think that's true. And I think that, again, that kind of really dovetails into what we've been doing with you folks and with the marketing, with the image and the optics of what we're doing. I really think that all goes together. So focusing on your frontline people. And I talked about how excited they were to wear the new logo. And, we really want to foster that, that attitude and that energy. So, yeah.
That's a great one. Dave, what do you?
I don't have anything that good. But I just know, parents always impose in me is just integrity and character and the ability to use your brain and just, it's okay to let your mind wander and think and be imaginative. And it's one thing that they've always instilled in me. I've got, sometimes I feel like I can play both sides of my brain, the numbers and the creative. And I think that's a lot of what they kind of helped foster in me is that ability to just kind of be bored when I was a kid and just let the imagination run wild.
That's a great balance, says the guy who just ran a half marathon. So there's mind and body too, right? That's great.
All right. How about a piece of advice you always give to your staff or customers?
I have something I say to staff that I think actually makes a lot of sense, and that is communicate and nothing bad will happen. Really emphasize how important it is to communicate, especially with a smaller team like we have. It's really important that everybody knows their role, what they need to do. So the communication to me is really a really important thing.
Yeah, and I would echo that. You can communicate, and that the sky's not falling at all the times, and it's it might seem like a big deal, but the work's always going to get done. It's okay. Take the time for your family, for the things that matter in life, because work's always going to be here. There's always going to be a problem, and it's okay. And it's something that I have to tell myself a lot of times too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, last easy question is, I know throughout this process, and we've all shared resources, but we talked to this guy, for an opinion on this. So I'm sure there's a lot of bankers listening that are thinking about a rebrand process or some part of this. And maybe something that you guys have said has sparked some questions. How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. I mean, they can get in touch with me by email. It's probably the easiest way. It's maggerjr@dfsb.net. So I'm happy to answer any questions about what we've gone through. And I highly recommend working with a company such as yours, where you guys, both your companies, we've been able to really do what we consider to be a very successful rebranding.
Yeah, we want the community bank space to be around for the long haul. It was one of the main motivators for us to hop on and chat with you guys, just to get our message out and to really inspire the hundreds, if not thousands, of really smaller institutions out there to just do it and just to dive right in and get the help, but really just go forward. So I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me, David Peters, and yeah, shoot me a DM or whatever. Let's chat, connect. Yeah, just go for it.
You can tell who's savvy here.
We'll link all that up in the show notes, and we'll put in we'll put in a link to the bank's website where you can also find the social media links for the bank. So if you've been listening to this whole episode, you're probably curious as to what the logo looks like and what kind of some of the brand presence is. So yeah, I encourage you all to take a look at that and reach out to any of us if you've got questions or want to talk through the process that we took in more depth.
Well, and we appreciate you guys being open to having those conversations. And I know that Dave, you in particular have had some conversations during and since this process with some other banks, and kind of either talking them off the ledge of fear of not doing it or kind of sharing the same kind of information that you guys have been so great to share with our audience today. So we can't thank you guys enough for this and for being on today and telling your story. And it's such a cool one and what a cool process. And so we can't thank you guys enough for your willingness to share it all.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a great relationship, and we're looking forward to continuing it.
Good. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.